Hi, this is the third day of the psychology of money. I read the chapter yesterday, but to be honest, I was way too tired to actually record a video, so I thought I'd do 3 and 4 at the same time. But then in the morning, while showering, I realized that if I do 3 and 4, I won't have 20 videos for 20 chapters. So I'll do a small video on chapter 3, and then I'll do a video on chapter 4. Also, I had a great idea that before talking of chapter 3, I should recap chapter 1 and 2. So that's a good idea. I will also retain a little more. So, chapter 1, I'm reading the book. I will not read my notes, I'll just read the chapter title. So, it says, no one's crazy, right? And it says that, personal experience with money makes 0.0001% of what happened in the world. The entire idea here is that, wisdom could be borrowed, wisdom could be or what do you call it, you could live from some other people's lives, but unless you experience it yourself, you won't become wise per se. Then he talks about how different strokes for different folks is the one thing that sort of rules the world around us, but we don't really realize it. And so that's the first thing. The second thing that he talks about is the entire thing about luck versus risk. That's the second chapter, right? Luck versus risk. So in this entire thing, entire chapter is actually focused around a simple concept of saying that you need to understand that luck and risk are the two sides of the same coin, and often people who believe that they are lucky, and people who take risks are willing to while they call it risks, in some cultures it may actually be a crime to think of it like a jugaad thing. And then what we need to do is that when you look at somebody's success in terms of luck and scale, you need to be a little more aware about that is it a repeatable kind of a skill, or they got lucky just because they were at the right place at the right time. Luck plays a role, but what can you do to sort of fix? Also, I realized while recapping the chapters that I had retained very little from what I had spoken or recorded in the first two chapters. So maybe it'll a good idea to watch the videos again. Okay, so coming to chapter 3, right? Chapter 3 talks about it's called Never Enough, and the entire idea here is that he's talking about how there is this entire thing called greed and envy. The two things that he talks about, greed and envy, that literally move the world, right? So he's given multiple examples of how people who were already were millionaires became extremely greedy, and then they do shitty things to actually try and become billionaires, and in the process they lost out on all the more money that they had, right? So the entire thing here is that we don't need to be greedy beyond a certain limit. Like for example, I keep saying I want to be billionaire, but I'm saying, do I want to be billionaire by risking what I have for what I don't have and what I don't need? So we need to identify what is that small number for us to look at. So for example, if you want to be $1 million man, right? So make your $1 million, but uske baad don't risk that $1 million on something that on something that you hope will give you $1 million. So the entire idea is that be very very sure about the kind of greed that you associate yourself with, and that's pretty much about it. So I'm just reading because I didn't take notes. I read it on the way to a meeting. So he talks about how Rajat Gupta made money, Bernie Madoff. Okay, then he talks about few things, right? This is important. So he says that he says that the entire idea here is that you may want to get jealous of the world around you. Okay, and let's say for example you went to an MBA. Ahilya went to an MBA, I went to an MBA, Pooja went to an MBA. So when we did our MBAs, we started thinking कि यार मेरे को तो 50,000 मिलता है, बट मेरे बैचमेट को 50 लाख मिलता है. So I start getting envious about it, and for in that envy I may take actions that may not be good, or may not be in sync with the kind of risk ability, in sync with the kind of ability that I have, and I will do things that are not really I'm supposed to be doing, right? So the entire idea is that so envy से बच के रहना है, and then that is one. Then obviously social comparisons is a bad thing, right? So you compare yourself to your Sharma ji ka beta, padोसी का बेटा. Never ever do that. And then lastly he says that no, there are a lot of things that are not worth risking. So for example, अगर आपके पास आज 10 रुपया है, right? That is your, in fact, one of the lessons from chapter 2 or 3 I think was, chapter 2 I think was, that don't get wiped out is the largest lesson that they sort of gave out. So here also he's reinforcing that whatever you do, whatever risk you take, don't do anything that will sort of wipe you out from things. So identify what is that you're not willing to risk or lose, and then that's your base point to start from, and then do whatever else from there on. So I think this is a summary of chapter 3. Funnily, I'm like kind of sad. Sorry, I'm just ending the video. I'm kind of sad that I don't retain a lot from chapter 1. Like I'm looking the title again. No one's crazy. I don't know what this entire fucking chapter was all about, right? If I read my notes, I can see that it's about practical learning. It's about not not getting moved by the fear, uncertainty, doubt. It's not. It's about uh, you know. It's about figuring out that money is new to us and how we let our emotions rule. I understand chapter 2 is about luck and risk. I also talk about you know Paul Allen biography. I hope all of you have ordered Paul Allen biography. Then it talks about you know agency. It talks about repeatable actions. I think the most important lesson is repeatable actions from chapter 2, right? um yeah, and then the important lesson chapter 2 was, like, in this important chapter was that find patterns that work and try to work around those patterns, and don't really look at the end success. Look at the process, look at the effort it took them to reach there. So yeah, and chapter 3 is essentially about ensuring that you don't get swayed by envy or greed, and if you control those, you should be okay. So yeah, I think this is the video. Thank you.